Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some really cool research about how AI is learning to understand language.
Oh, yeah, this stuff is really fascinating.
And not just like basic word recognition, right? It's like
Right.
way beyond that.
Yeah, it's getting really sophisticated.
It's navigating like hundreds of dimensions of meaning.
It really is.
So get ready to have your mind stretched a little bit.
Yeah, buckle up.
So how is this different from like how we as humans learn language?
Well, you know how a child picks up language organically, like before they hit the grammar books?
Yeah.
It's all about hearing and mimicking, and somehow understanding starts to emerge, right?
Right. Like, how did we all learn to speak?
Exactly.
Like, nobody sat me down with a textbook when I was 2.
And AI is kind of taking a similar approach.
Oh, interesting.
It's analyzing huge amounts of data
Okay.
and starts to recognize patterns and relationships between words.
Like, just from looking at tons of text.
Yeah, and even figuring out sentence structures. But it goes beyond just recognizing individual words.
So it's less about knowing what the word apple means.
Right.
And more about how apple fits into like a larger context.
Exactly.
Like a sentence or even a whole paragraph or a conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does that work?
Think of it like a racetrack. But
Okay.
instead of cars, we have different aspects of language zooming along.
Okay, I like where this is going.
One lane might be about subject-verb relationships.
Uh-huh.
Another lane is dedicated to those tricky prepositions.
Oh, right.
And another lane focuses on, is this sentence a question or a statement or a command?
Okay, so I'm picturing this linguistic racetrack with all these different pieces of language whizzing by.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does AI actually keep up with all of that?
Well, imagine each of those lanes has sensors that feed information back to like a central control room.
Okay,
That's kind of what AI is doing.
gotcha.
It's taking in all this data about a sentence all at the same time,
Wow.
processing it in ways that are just mind-blowing.
Like stuff we can't even visualize.
Right. It's beyond our normal way of thinking.
So it's not like looking at one word, then the next word, then the next word.
Nope.
It's like processing everything at once.
It's looking at the whole picture.
That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing.
So to understand this a little better,
Yeah.
can we bring back our friend Ravana,
Ah, yeah, yes, Ravana.
the 10-headed demon king from Hindu mythology?
A great analogy.
So if AI is like Ravana,
Yeah.
each of those heads is kind of like a specialized processing unit.
Exactly. Like those different lanes on our racetrack.
Okay.
Each head or each unit analyzes the sentence from a different angle.
So like one's looking for verbs,
Maybe.
one's looking for the subject of the sentence.
Right. And another is looking for adjectives or adverbs.
Okay, so each one is focusing on a different feature of the language.
Exactly. And these units are all part of what we call transformer models in AI.
Okay, I've heard of those.
They're designed to understand the complex web of relationships within a sentence.
Okay, so that's how they're similar to Ravana.
Right. Each head has its own specialty.
Right.
But here's the really mind-blowing part.
Okay, hit me.
While we humans struggle to grasp more than 3 or 4 dimensions.
Like 3D space, right?
Exactly.
I can barely wrap my head around that sometimes.
AI can handle hundreds of dimensions.
What?
Hundreds.
So it's not just like a little bit smarter than us.
Right.
It's like thinking in a completely different way.
It's processing information in a way that we can't even begin to comprehend.
So AI is literally thinking in ways that our brains just can't even fathom.
It's pretty incredible.
That is wild.
And what's fascinating is that all of this happens through numbers.
Wait, so every sentence, every word
Yeah.
even gets turned into numbers before the AI can even begin to understand it.
That's right. It's all about the numbers.
Okay, so tell me more about that. How does that work?
Think of it like this. Each element of language words, punctuation, even the spaces between words,
Okay.
all of that becomes a channel, and numbers flow through those channels, carrying layers of meaning.
Wow.
It's like translating the entire symphony of language into a complex mathematical code.
Okay, now my brain is doing backflips trying to picture this.
It's a lot to take in.
So we have all these numbers flying around,
Uh-huh.
but how do those numbers actually become meaning for the AI?
That's where the magic happens.
Okay.
Remember, our processing units are heads like Ravana's.
Yeah.
Each one is crunching those numbers,
Okay.
analyzing the patterns,
Uh-huh.
and creating a numerical representation of the sentence.
Okay, so it's like each of Ravana's heads is looking at the sentence from its own perspective, and then they kind of come together to form a complete picture.
That's a good way to visualize it.
Cool.
Imagine each head whispering its insights to the others,
Okay.
constantly refining their understanding of the sentence's meaning.
Okay, so at this point, the AI has this, like, super complex numerical representation of the sentence.
Right, but it's still very complex.
Even for the AI.
Even for the AI.
So what happens next?
That's where things get even more interesting, and we'll dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Right, tease me a little bit. What's coming up?
We're going to explore the fascinating concepts of logits and softmax.
Okay.
Think of them as the tools that AI uses to translate that complex numerical data into something we can understand.
All right, I am hooked. I
Yep.
cannot wait to learn about logits and softmax.
They're pretty amazing.
So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back after the break. All right, so we're back, and we've been talking about all this crazy stuff AI is doing with language.
Yeah, like our digital Ravana with all those processing units working away.
Right, and I still can't get over the idea that it's all happening in like hundreds of dimensions.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling.
But okay, we left off with this idea that the AI ends up with this like super complex numerical representation of the sentence.
Right, all those numbers flying around.
And even the AI is like, whoa, hold on, that's a lot.
It needs a way to make sense of it all.
So how does it do that?
That's where things get really interesting, and we get to talk about these two cool concepts called logits and softmax.
Okay, finally, logits and softmax. I've been waiting for this.
These are the keys to understanding how AI bridges the gap between its own internal representation of language and our human understanding.
So it's like a translation process.
Exactly.
Okay, so logits first. What are those?
So remember all those computational units or heads like we were talking about with Ravana?
Yeah, each one analyzing the sentence from a different angle.
Right, and each one spits out a kind of score, a numerical representation of its analysis. And those scores are the logits.
So each logit is like one head's opinion on what the sentence means.
Yeah, like a little vote.
Okay, but there are tons of these logits, right?
Hundreds of them.
Because we have all those different dimensions of analysis going on.
Exactly. So at this point, we have this jumble of logits reflecting all those dimensions.
So it's like a room full of experts all shouting out their ideas at the same time.
Pretty much, and it's super overwhelming even for the AI.
Okay, so that's where softmax swoops in to save the day.
Exactly. Softmax is the hero of the story.
All right, so tell me, how does softmax bring order to all this chaos?
Well, think of softmax as the conductor of an orchestra.
Okay.
It takes all those individual voices, those logits, and blends them into a harmonious symphony.
So it's creating some kind of overall picture.
Right. It takes those raw logits of those individual scores and transforms them into something called a probability distribution.
Probability distribution. Okay, that sounds a little bit intimidating.
It's not as scary as it sounds. Think of it like a bag of marbles.
I'm listening.
With different colors representing different interpretations of the sentence. Softmax is like shaking that bag of marbles and then telling you the probability of pulling out a marble of a certain color.
So instead of having all those crazy numbers, we get a much simpler answer.
Exactly.
Like, okay, AI thinks this sentence is 90% likely to be a question.
Right, or maybe 60% likely to be a positive statement.
So it gives us a ranking of the possible interpretations.
Exactly. From most likely to least likely.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I'm glad.
So softmax is like the bridge between the AI's crazy internal world and our human need for clear answers.
It's like AI's way of saying, here's what I think I understand.
That is really cool.
And what's even cooler is that we can actually visualize this process.
Really?
Imagine a bar chart
Okay.
where each bar represents a possible interpretation of the sentence. As the AI processes the language, those bars go up and down, reflecting the changing probabilities.
So we can see the AI's thoughts evolving in real time.
Exactly. It's like peeking inside the mind of a supercomputer.
That's amazing.
And this is just the beginning as we keep developing these AI models. Who knows what other incredible things we'll discover.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Mine too.
So we've got AI processing language in hundreds of dimensions. Then using logits and softmax to make sense of it all.
It's a pretty incredible process.
It is. So where do we go from here?
Well, now that we've got a handle on the basics, we can start to explore the bigger implications of all this.
Okay, like what?
Like, how will this change the way we interact with machines? How will it impact things like communication and creativity, even problem solving?
Okay, so the big picture stuff.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about in the final part of our deep dive.
I can't wait. Okay, so we've made it to the final part of our deep dive. And I have to say, my brain is pretty much overflowing with all this AI stuff.
I know it's a lot to take in, isn't it? But it's pretty exciting stuff.
It really is. And we've covered a lot of ground, right? From those multi-headed computational models to those mysterious logits and softmax.
Yeah, we've seen how AI is not just matching words, but really delving into the nuances of language like intent and emotion.
Right, like it's actually starting to understand what we mean, not just what we say.
Exactly, and that opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Okay, so let's talk about those possibilities. Paint me a picture of what this AI-powered future could look like.
Well, imagine a world where communication barriers are a thing of the past.
Okay, that would be amazing.
AI could provide real-time translation that captures not just the words, but the subtle cultural nuances.
So like no more awkward misunderstandings or relying on those clunky translation apps.
Right, we could have genuine conversations with anyone, anywhere in the world.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
And think about the impact on education.
Okay, yeah.
AI could create personalized learning experiences for every student.
So like a custom-tailored education plan for everyone.
Exactly, adapting to each student's needs and pace.
Wow, so everyone could reach their full potential.
And that's just scratching the surface.
Okay, there's more.
AI could revolutionize healthcare by analyzing medical records and patient conversations.
So helping doctors diagnose diseases earlier and more accurately?
Right, potentially saving countless lives.
Okay, you've convinced me the potential is huge.
And there's more.
Oh, wow.
AI could help us tackle some of the world's biggest challenges like climate change
How so?
by analyzing massive data sets to identify patterns and solutions that we might miss.
So AI is not just about understanding language.
Right.
It's about using that understanding to make a real difference in the world.
Exactly. It's about solving problems and improving lives.
This is incredible stuff. But I have to ask, what about the potential downsides? Is there a flip side to all this?
Of course, with any powerful technology, we need to be mindful of the risks.
Like what?
Well, one concern is bias in AI algorithms. We need to make sure that AI is fair and equitable for everyone.
Yeah, that's a big one. We can't just assume that AI will automatically be unbiased.
And as AI becomes more sophisticated, we also need to think about the impact on the job market.
Right. Like how will AI change the way we work?
And how do we prepare people for those changes?
So it's not just about developing the technology.
No.
It's about shaping its development and implementation in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Exactly. It's a societal conversation as much as a technological one.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about AI and its potential.
Me too. It's an incredibly exciting field.
So to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep those minds curious, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.